Imagine sitting in your living room on a quiet Sunday morning, only to hear a loud knock at your door. You open it to find police officers sent by your own HOA, ready to accuse you of something you didn't do. But before they could utter another word, my wife, still in her military uniform, stepped out, and what happened next left them completely frozen. This is a story of power, respect, and how standing your ground can change everything. Stick around until the end, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping real-life stories that prove truth is stronger than control. It started on a calm Saturday morning, the kind that makes you grateful for a simple life. The sun had just risen over the rooftops of our neighborhood, spilling gold across freshly trimmed lawns. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee, listening to the soft hum of my wife, Emily, moving around upstairs. She had come home late the night before after a long shift. Emily is a captain in the Army Reserve, and even though she had been deployed overseas multiple times, she still wore her uniform proudly during drill weekends. We lived in what some would call a perfect suburban neighborhood, HOA-controlled, neatly manicured yards, identical mailboxes, and rules so strict you could get fined for leaving your trash bins out for more than 12 hours. When we first moved in, I didn't think much of it. The HOA promised to maintain order and community standards. But I quickly learned those standards meant more control than community. They had fined us for the color of our flower pots, for parking slightly outside the line of our driveway, and even for a welcome mat they claimed was non-regulation. At first, I tried to be diplomatic. I'd write letters, attend meetings, and even volunteered to be part of the landscaping committee to show I wanted to help. But it was clear the HOA board didn't want cooperation, they wanted compliance. Their president, a woman named Carol, had a reputation for being ruthless. She walked the neighborhood like a general, pointing out infractions with her clipboard, making notes, and later issuing violation letters like parking tickets. That morning, I was enjoying the rare peace of not having to deal with Carol's petty reign. Emily was finally getting a chance to rest, and I was determined not to let anything disturb her. But peace, in this neighborhood, was temporary. At around 9:30, I heard the knock. Not a gentle one, either, it was sharp, authoritative, the kind of knock that instantly raises your blood pressure. I put down my coffee and went to the door. Through the glass, I saw two uniformed police officers standing stiffly on my porch. Behind them, parked at the curb, was a black and white squad car. "Good morning," I said cautiously as I opened the door. "Sir," one of the officers said, his tone clipped, "we've received a call from your homeowners association regarding multiple violations. They've asked us to investigate and ensure compliance." I blinked, almost laughing at the absurdity. "You're here for HOA violations." The officer didn't laugh. He looked serious, almost embarrassed. "Yes, sir. They claimed you've been uncooperative and hostile toward HOA enforcement." "Hostile?" I repeated, incredulous. "For what? Planting daisies?" The second officer shifted uncomfortably. "They mentioned an unauthorized vehicle on your property, as well as non-compliance with landscaping regulations." It hit me then. Emily's car was in the driveway. She had driven her military vehicle back from base the night before, a standard government-issued SUV with insignia on the side. It wasn't against any law, but I knew Carol must have taken one look and decided it was unsightly, or unauthorized. I rubbed my temples. "Look, officers, this is ridiculous. That vehicle belongs to my wife. She serves in the U.S. Army. If the HOA has a problem with that, they can talk to her directly." The first officer crossed his arms. "Sir, we're just here to mediate. But we need to make sure nothing is escalating. They claimed you've threatened board members in the past." I was about to explode, but just then, I heard footsteps behind me. Emily came down the stairs, still buttoning the top of her camouflage uniform. She had tied her hair into a bun, and the crispness of her uniform made her presence commanding. "What's going on?" she asked, stepping beside me. The officers froze. Their eyes widened as they registered the uniform, the insignia, and the authority she naturally carried. One of them instinctively straightened, almost like he was addressing a superior. "These officers," I said, gesturing toward them, "were sent by the HOA. Apparently, your government vehicle isn't welcome in our driveway." Emily's eyes sharpened. She stepped forward, shoulders squared, her voice calm but firm. Officers, is there a law against me parking my assigned military vehicle at my own home? No, ma'am, the first officer admitted. Then why, Emily continued, her tone unwavering, are you standing on my porch at 9:30 in the morning, enforcing the personal preferences of a homeowners association? The officers glanced at each other. The second officer cleared his throat. We were told this was a potential disturbance, ma'am. Emily folded her arms. Let me make something clear. I have served overseas. I have stood guard in countries where real threats exist. And now I come home, after serving my country, only to be harassed in my own neighborhood because some HOA president doesn't like the look of my vehicle. The silence was heavy. The officers looked down, clearly realizing how absurd the situation was. One of them muttered, ma'am, with all due respect, we're sorry for the inconvenience. I could see the frustration boiling in Emily, but she kept her composure. I suggest you inform the HOA board that if they want to escalate this, they can put it in writing. Otherwise, they have no authority to involve law enforcement over matters like this. Understood. Yes, ma'am, the officers said almost in unison. They turned quickly and walked back toward their patrol car, visibly relieved to escape the weight of her authority. When the door closed, Emily let out a breath and looked at me. They're pushing too far. This isn't just about flowers or driveways anymore. This is harassment. I nodded. Then maybe it's time we push back. And so began our war, not with weapons, but with persistence, strategy, and the power of knowing the law better than those who abused it. Over the next several weeks, Carol and the HOA board tried everything. Letters accusing us of unlawful signage, because Emily displayed a small flag in the window. Notices demanding we remove her military vehicle or face escalating fines. Even petty attempts to claim our mailbox was the wrong shade of black. But Emily was relentless. Every time a letter arrived, she documented it. Every accusation, she countered with legal references, federal protections, and military housing rights. She even attended an HOA meeting in full uniform, walking into the community hall like a storm. When Carol tried to cut her off, Emily calmly reminded her that harassment against service members could carry federal consequences. The entire room went silent. Neighbors who had once stayed quiet began whispering their support. Some had suffered their own run-ins with Carol and her clipboard dictatorship but were too afraid to speak up. Seeing Emily stand her ground gave them courage. They started attending meetings, questioning the board, and demanding transparency. It wasn't long before the tide shifted. The police never returned, not for us, anyway. Instead, Carol and her allies on the board found themselves under scrutiny. Residents began filing complaints about misuse of funds, excessive fines, and abuse of authority. Within months, there was a petition for new leadership. When the vote came, the community overwhelmingly ousted Carol and her allies. The new board was formed by people who genuinely cared about maintaining the neighborhood without suffocating its residents. On the day the results were announced, Emily and I stood on our porch together, watching neighbors celebrate with cheers and handshakes. She squeezed my hand and smiled. Funny, isn't it? All it took was a knock at the door. I kissed her forehead. A knock, and a soldier who knew how to stand her ground. From that day forward, our neighborhood felt different. The lawns were still trimmed, the mailboxes still matched, but there was something new in the air: freedom. Freedom to live without fear of petty authority. And for us, freedom meant more than anything else. If this story made your heart race, if it reminded you that standing up for what's right matters even in the smallest battles, then don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button, share this story with your friends, and drop a comment about your own experience with HOAs or authority gone too far. Together, we can make sure these real-life stories of courage, respect, and resilience reach the people who need to hear them most.